tomorrow then.
Folks, I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and get started now that Gail's gone.
Wow.
Joining us this evening, we have Jan and Marcia and Derek. Derek's the only one who's making himself seen. And if you're wondering, he's in a gymnasium.
I know.
So we already ascertained that.
With other criminals?
Over strong.
I would
Gymnasium.
suggest that you turn to page 48 in your Living
That's
Well
their
Through
nickname
Lent,
for the Yuba High School.
practicing forgiveness with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. If by some remote possibility you didn't bring your book today, I do have extras that you can borrow or look at. Anybody need one? No? Okay.
That's a first.
Well, if you're at home, I hope you have your book with you, and you can look on page 48. The quote is from John O'Donohue. Although you should not erase your responsibility for the past, when you make the past your jailer, you destroy your future. It is such a great moment of liberation when you learn to forgive yourself. Let the burden go and walk out into a new path of promise and possibility. And then the writer goes on to talk about the two ways many people have trouble forgiving themselves. The first is stated as having to do with something specific a person has done for which they're having trouble forgiving themselves. A feeling of deep regret about how they have hurt or betrayed someone, or about how they have betrayed a core value within themselves. A second way that people seeking forgiveness experience difficulty is more general in nature. These people usually can't identify anything specific they feel bad about having done, but still they live with a pervasive and chronic sense of not feeling good enough. A sense they just have never quite measured up to some internal or external standard. Further exploration usually reveals that this sense of not being good enough is related to their having internalized this message growing up, whether it was in their home or from the surrounding environment or the culture in which they lived, the schools they went to, the churches they attended. No matter the origin of the need to forgive ourselves, the path to healing is the same. First, we need to acknowledge both to God and, if possible, to someone else we trust, the real pain of not feeling worthy and of our need to forgive ourselves. Opening our hearts to God and to another in this way creates an opening in which we can receive God's compassion and mercy. It allows us to begin to let the burden go and walk out into the new path of promise and possibility. Then ask the question at the bottom, if you ever felt your past was a jailer that prevents your own freedom to enjoy life in the present. Do you currently experience difficulty in forgiving yourself in either way described above? If so, and I think this is very, very important, if so, what has helped or what will help you to forgive yourself? Sometimes people who are finding themselves jailed by a past event or by past information that they've been given about not being quite good enough, think about the hurts. Think about the hurt that they did. Think about the hurt that they felt. Think about all of the things that have been a part of their memory. But I think the subtle difference here is they're saying what has helped or what will help you to forgive yourself. Think about the strides you've made, the positive things you've done. If you've had a little breakthrough, even if it was just a teeny breakthrough and then that broken through part closed up again, what was it that you were able to do? What prayer, what Bible scripture, what hymn, what quote that you've read or heard or memorized has helped you to break a little bit of that crust, to break free just a little bit. Think about that, and then develop that. Work with that. Don't think there's no way to break through, because there is a way to break through. And that's a promise that we've received. We get to be free of sin. We get to be saved. And so, but it is up to us to accept it and to find the things to do to make it work. When we look at tomorrows, because you know we cheat a little bit, we look at Tuesdays and then we look into tomorrows because it gives us our contemplative practice. We get a quote from Hugh Prather, and I don't know if any of you ever used to read him, but in the 70s I had books by him everywhere I went because I loved to read, because he was one of those who gave me something pithy to work with to help break some of the old ways that I was looking at things and doing things. And so I haven't heard of him in years until I saw this. He says, true forgiveness is never dishonest. It is not some futile exercise in rosy self-deception. It is simply the gift we give ourselves that allows us to live in the present and be as God created us. Then they talk about the examen, the Ignatian-inspired practice. And there are two versions of that at the back of the book, on page 85, and the second one is on page 86. The one on 86 is pretty involved, and I don't want to slide over it, but I just think that it takes a little bit more time than we can give ourselves tonight to look into it. So I commend it to you on page 86. It really is an end-of-the-day exercise, just as the one on 85 is. The one on 85 is kind of cool because for those of us who are visual, and not just like words, but like images, this one gives us an image to work with. And it's the image of the rose bush. In the Examen for Children, the authors suggest asking children to picture a rose bush. Here are the instructions. Picture a rose bush, which has roses, thorns, and buds. Now, if you're having trouble remembering those three, just think of the part that smells, the rose, the thorn, the part that sticks, and then the bud. And you know, there's that old saying, this bud's for you. But I think it's a little different than this rose bush. So they suggest roses are joyful things, or things from the day. Thing or things from the day. Thorns are painful or challenging experiences. Buds are possibilities for growth. And they say simply, as you imagine that rose bush sitting quietly, think about what roses, joyful thing or things from the day, did your day hold? What thorns, what things that stuck, that maybe caused us to bleed a little or to feel some pain? Or perhaps...
Well, I just got an email from Marion said that still wants me to be on board tonight. Okay.
What?
I don't know.
Or perhaps, what buds or possibilities?
Huh?
You can be heard on that?
I can't even hear it. That's how I turned it to 100%.
KNS. Who is it?
Pam.
I can't hear.
People
It's,
don't know.
Pam can't hear.
Let me say they can't hear.
So you ask yourself at the end of each day, what roses or thorns or buds did your day hold? And you can easily think of those three things. I mean, even somebody as elderly as I can remember three things. We had a discussion at the Altar Guild today where it was indicated that anybody over 70 was pretty much washed up. And what we were discussing actually was whether or not who could climb the ladder to change the shrouds on the cross. And I was told I couldn't. I wasn't allowed to because of my advanced age. And then looking around, I realized that everybody else at that table was pretty much that same age. So even though I tried to make a point of, you know, if I fall and am injured, it's a workers' comp claim. So it makes sense for me to do it. But anyway, we can remember three things, and roses, thorns, and buds. So I commend that to you. I did get told this week that somebody had been using one of the exercises that we went over, and that they had some pretty good experience with it. Just ask you real quickly, have you used anything that we've looked at, that we've talked about, that has worked for you?
The mindfulness, the meditation, or just the deep breathing,
Okay,
that sort of thing, really helps me a lot.
okay, excellent.
It actually, my brain starts firing on all cylinders then, and it's like, wow.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Well, there is a wealth in here. And I think one of the reasons there are so many different things is because no one of these things is going to work for all of us or each of us. So find the thing, practice them just a little bit, see what kind of compels you to do a little bit more, and then develop it, because it will make a difference. I will promise you that. So you can, as I said, go to page 86 and see that there are, oh gosh, 5 or more things to have to remember there, and probably you all can do it, but it's a little much for me. So I just look at the rose bush instead.
There you go.
Okay, first we'll go over the survey, and I will tell you that all 8 of the questions were answered by 37 people. We had 4 people who used the electronic way of getting it in, and the other 33 turned them in, and we sent them down, scanned them, and sent them twice to Jessica. They didn't show up the first time, and so we sent them again, but she did all the collating and putting it together. So you can take a look at the first question, which was, our members are comfortable sharing their spiritual stories with others. No one said, not at all. 3% said somewhat comfortable with sharing spiritual stories. 14% said we're average. Almost 40% said mostly we're good with our spiritual story sharing. And 44% said absolutely. So that means 84% of us thought that we're fairly good at sharing our spiritual stories with others here. We are building partnerships with others outside our church. 0% thought we weren't doing any building of partnerships.
Wow.
13% said they thought we were somewhat. Another 13% thought we were average at doing that. Almost 50% said mostly doing it, and 26% said absolutely doing it. So just about 75% thought that we're doing pretty good at building partnerships with others outside our church. Now, if you have any thoughts when we go over any of these, please jump in with them because I'm not going to make any comments other than sharing this stuff. We're going to answer some questions at the end, though, or ask some questions, hope to get some answers. Several of our outreach ministries happen off our campus. Nobody thought that none of our outreach ministries happen off our campus. 3% thought that somewhat our outreach ministries happen off the campus. 13% thought an average amount of outreach ministries happen off the campus. 28% thought mostly they happen off the campus. And 56% thought absolutely. So, can you think of some of those outreach ministries that we do and where they happen?
Backpacks.
Backpacks, that happens off the campus.
Yeah.
Well, the food pantry.
The food pantry happens off the campus.
Sierra Heights.
Sierra Heights happens off the
Yeah,
campus.
so
Duluth.
Duluth happens on.
Duluth happens off the campus.
Camp Pendleton?
Camp Pendleton happens off the campus.
Our donations to the school district. Like we had.
Yes,
We
yes.
had the extra stuff we
Right.
gave to the school up there.
Yep,
Yeah.
those happen off the campus.
That's awesome.
The one thing that I can think that happens on the campus
Yes,
is ESL.
yeah.
Right.
But that's really just use of our facilities. I mean, well, we do provide childcare.
What about the fundraisers that we have here? How would you classify?
Yeah,
I don't know that those are outreach opportunities.
Well, the proceeds go to outreach opportunities. The proceeds.
Yes, they certainly
do go,
yeah.
but they're done here, so.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
about AA?
Yeah,
They
AA meets
meet
here.
Yeah. Well,
Again, we're not necessarily involved in the AA, but we
Right.
provide space.
well, we all reach to the community when we have, we have the wine thing and we used to have the backpack luau,
Sure,
you know, that was.
yeah.
We outreach to St. Peter's and by letting them use our our parking.
And we are so grateful when they mow it.
Exactly.
Right.
And when we were doing
Oh.
blessings in a bag, that's all
Sure,
out,
it's all out, yeah, all off campus.
everywhere.
Okay. Our members are regularly engaged in ministries off campus. No one thought that no one was engaged off campus. 11% thought somewhat off campus, regularly engaged. 39% thought in an average way. And then 50% thought half of those mostly and half of those absolutely. 25% on mostly and absolutely. So, interesting how it's equally divided between not so much and mostly, or absolutely.
And also people are bringing things to the church, like Kim with the Duluth workers and things like that.
Sure, yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how it's going to play out, but I maybe have alluded to it. I was very excited in January when it first was starting to pop, but it looks like we're going to do some baptisms at Duluth, and which is pretty exciting. But our attempt to go there in February and do some prep for the baptisms fell through because they had COVID, and they didn't want to spread it, which we appreciate. But anyway, so now trying to get it ramped up again. And I don't know how many of you know it, unless you were on the vestry last year, you might not, because we may not have publicized it, but we did send $1,000 of our outreach money to border ministry that is done in the name of the Episcopal Church. And so that was something we didn't do, but our money did do something. Off-campus outreach opportunities are regularly announced on Sundays. Nobody thought nothing was announced. 6% thought somewhat announced. 22% thought an average amount of announcements, so that's just a little under 30%. And then 19% said mostly, and 53% said absolutely. Sometimes they never shut up. It's like a second sermon. So the hope is that we find a balance, but that is a way that we get the word out, that is for sure. We understand the issues addressing our surrounding neighborhood. 5% said not at all. It's the first time we've seen a countable number in that category. Not at all.
But some people took that literally, meaning this neighborhood right here.
Right, and as I was having a discussion with someone today, it's interesting because we have two pieces of property. This is one, but not necessarily the first one that we're talking about developing for the community. The first one is up there on Stagecoach, and I would argue that we pretty much understand the issues around that community because we live in houses like those and we get a sense of what's going on. But, you know, do we have an idea of what's going on in a trailer park? Maybe not. It's been a while since most of us have lived in, you know, single wides or whatever. 32% thought maybe somewhat we understood what was going on. 19% thought we had an average understanding, so that's over 50, almost 60% who think we're not very understanding of the issues addressing our surrounding neighborhood. And I would say that most of them were thinking about this place and this neighborhood. 22% thought mostly, and 5% thought absolutely. Last two. Our membership reflects the demographics of our neighborhood. There were no people who said not at all. 24% said somewhat. 52% thought we had an average reflection of the demographics of our neighborhood. 4%, I think I've got this wrong somehow.
8%.
8% thought mostly, sorry. And 16% thought absolutely. I don't know that that's, somehow the numbers
You need to
don't
see it
look
in
right.
I
color.
mean, if you look at people walking up and driving down the street, it's like 95% Hispanic.
Right.
So how does that relate to the question then?
I'm not sure.
Depends on which property you're looking at, I guess.
Yeah, and is it, are we talking about racial makeup or ethnic makeup, or are we talking about financial realities? You know, do people drive nice cars? Do people have decent homes, et cetera, et cetera? I mean,
Demographic can also mean, are they married with children?
sure.
Single parent or one parent families?
It can deal with ages.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can deal with education. So, you know, I would think that the people who come to this church are generally, shall we say it, senior citizens, more Caucasian, probably college educated or close, financially decently off, I mean well off, not maybe rich, but not living paycheck to paycheck all the time. But there are lots of people who don't fit that, even in our congregation. And you just need to think a little bit, expand your brains and think, gosh, there are people who, somebody asked me, he's a very marginal member of our congregation, but our son Jeremiah, they said, why are we praying for Jeremiah? He's on the prayer list. I said, because he is without gainful employment. Now his benefit is he's living with someone, a lawyer, who she makes a bunch of money, and that's great, but that's not going to carry you through, you know. So he doesn't fit our demographic in many ways. We have the Cano family, Fernando and Marina, and their two little boys. So, and we do have other families, the Adams and you know, Felix and Isaac, and so we're not completely, totally one demographic, but I don't think that we reflect the neighborhood especially well. So I think this is pretty accurate. Our outreach budget is reflective of our commitment to the neighborhood. None at zero, I mean 0 for not at all. 3% thought somewhat. 25% thought in an average way. 42% thought mostly, and 30% thought absolutely. And that is, so it means about 75, almost 75%, over 70% thought mostly or absolutely that our budget is reflective of our commitment to the neighborhood. Who do we offer things to? Sierra Heights, people who live in apartments, and people who are who have some limitations, and our ESL. Those are people who don't speak English as their first language, and we take care of their kids when they're here if they bring kids with them. People who go to the food pantry. Those are people who are food insecure. And I mean, they don't have 3 soups on a Tuesday night waiting for them. And we help.
But also financially, we help them with the gift cards,
Yes,
and also with the backpacks,
yes.
for the
Samaritan's
for the
Purse.
kids, so there's
Yeah.
a
And that's more
wide
international.
variety,
Right.
you know, and
Yeah.
like you said, Samaritan's Purse also, which is more out of the country.
Yeah.
than-
Yeah, yeah,
than inside this country,
right.
but the Fallbrook Food Pantry, we help in many ways, not
Yes.
just one way.
Yes, and our more recent, the last couple of years, work with Camp Pendleton, which is growing and is not where we want it to be yet, but you know, it reaches out to those in our community who are here temporarily. I mean,
Correct.
nobody stays forever when they come to Pendleton. I mean, didn't you just find out, Dale, that the chaplain is?
Retiring.
Yeah, you're retiring,
Yeah.
yeah.
Correct.
Is Camp Pendleton in a budget? This is a budget.
Is that-
Oh, our outreach budget.
Right.
Well, here's the odd thing about our budget. There are things that we do that are outreach that don't come out of the church's budget, but come out of our pockets.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, Samaritan's Purse doesn't come out of the church's
Right,
budget.
right, right. Yes,
Um,
we take care of that.
So the things, and we do a fundraiser. We have the last 2 years to support what happens on Pendleton. And we have money that has accrued for backpacks, and that was money that came out of our pocket. So it was money that, I mean, it did, but it didn't come out of the church's pockets per se.
Fundraisers,
Yes, but then we pass it along.
yeah.
So,
And we have military-friendly fund in the budget, though.
yes, we do.
So
Yes,
that
we do.
covers a lot of things, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So, I want to ask a series of questions.
Okay.
Can you read this? This is my attempt at scrawling here. What, if anything, surprised you about the survey results? Anything surprised you about the survey results? I know you haven't had hours to pore over it.
I think it was surprising that all the different, how everybody thought differently about things, but more so than I would have thought personally they would have come up with. Because it seems like we have a really good positive idea of things more so than I actually thought myself personally. And it makes me feel good about it.
I think there's a plurality in almost all of these. That's either greater than 50 to 75%, kind of, if you by definition say what is that, you know, if you narrowed or widened the definitions, probably 50 to 75% on all of these kind of are close enough for government work.
Horseshoes?
You mean, what do you mean, but they look favorably, the results are more favorable in our?
Well, the somewhats
Yeah.
are less significant than the some things. The 3, 4s, and 5s always outnumber the 2s. Most of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So plurality.
So it seems like we're doing a good job promoting the activities of the church.
It almost feels like they look favorably on our church and what we're doing.
Well, we do try to emphasize that, especially during stewardship.
Yeah.
The stewardship campaign is when we always say, we may be small, but we're mighty,
Yeah.
because of the things that we do and the number of people that we impact, considering how few people we are.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we do try to say things like that and let them know where their dollar is going or where their efforts are going. And so,
That's on tape, you know, so you can't get your workman's comp for that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because that was an issue of hitting my Achilles very, very hard against this massive chair. Okay. So anything else that you want to put up here that surprised you about the results?
I like the fact that I think that they're pleased with how we're spending our money, or
At least they're
recognizing.
aware of it.
aware of it.
People are
Yeah,
aware
the awareness.
of what's going on.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They, you know, they just don't think we're doing nothing, you know, just sitting.
Right, right.
And there's things, good things going on. Because most of the stuff is off campus, when you really look at it.
Uh-huh.
I had a small handful of people ask me what that chart means that's on the newsletter and about where the money goes for stewardship.
Uh-huh.
And because they don't realize all the ministries under each category. So that's why I changed it last week, hoping that would help people understand this is where all this money is going. And this is where outreach is, and this is where services, and you know, this is where education is. And
Yeah.
so hopefully we can educate the parish a little, or the parishioners a little more on where the money is going.
Sure. That's helpful. Very helpful. Thank you. Appreciate your efforts on that.
Yes.
Okay. Going to move to another question. Question number dose. How do the survey results reflect our missional gifts or strengths as a congregation?
I think we're going in the right direction. Seems like, as Steve pointed out, the far majority of the parishioners agree with the direction that's going on.
And the number of people that we're actually helping keeps growing and not shrinking. With the ability that we have to help. Because it's just, you know, keep expanding. And it is in the.
We're not the frozen chosen. Well, some of us are.
Interesting.
We are kind of active, right?
Yeah,
I
but if you really
Oh,
start
we got a
thinking
heart.
about the number of.
Everybody look on the screen, we got a heart.
There's
So
a
what?
heart out there, someone's putting up a heart. Yeah.
They're putting in what?
We got a heart comment, I think that was from Derek. Thank you, Derek. We're a small congregation, but we're very generous, I think.
Right.
I'm kind of surprised about all the things we do. I had no idea we were doing this much everywhere, all the time.
And when you think about it,
Gives you a good feeling.
I shouldn't say half of our congregation, but about a third of our congregation do not live in Fallbrook. And some of those are the most active
Right.
people. So they must be pleased with what we're doing to try, because they're not only giving up of their energy and their money or something like that, but they're giving up of their time. And I think that reflects a lot.
I'm sorry.
Come on, kid.
Spam risk.
Back at it. Okay.
Linked, I'm linked, sorry.
Was he calling you?
Spam risk.
Yeah.
You want me to
I
call?
think this is a little dichotomy here. We understand the issues addressing our surrounding neighborhood.
It's got the whole thing.
22% mostly, 22% absolutely.
Yeah, it's all neat.
And then the other one is, our membership is reflects the demographics of our neighborhood. 52% is average. But it's like, we don't really address the issues surrounding our neighborhood, but our membership reflects the demographics of our neighborhood. To me, that's confusing. Unless I'm confused totally, because that's like, do we or don't we?
Well, my guess is that the difference is, do we specifically do things to address the issues of the people in this area? Or, well, it might be argued that teaching English
Yes, but
as a second language, that providing
pantry.
childcare, that, providing food at the food pantry, et cetera, et cetera.
Providing parking.
Well, that's more of a,
Yeah.
so
I scared a lot of them
that's
away.
what-
yeah, don't get Ken started.
I know.
Okay, so that's in the understanding issues addressing our surrounding neighborhood. 22% say mostly, 22% absolutely.
But is it the neighborhood or the city?
Well, that's what Father Leland was saying. There is a little bit of question about that.
Sure.
Or is it just,
What is the demographic, or what are we
Yeah.
talking about in the immediate neighborhood?
Yeah, and, the immediate neighborhood of the property on Stagecoach is different than the immediate neighborhood
Yeah.
of this
So are
property.
we talking, what are we?
And I don't know what people were thinking of when they answered that question.
Yeah, okay, so.
This property or
or
that property?
Or both, or what, but,
Or Fallbrook itself.
Or Fallbrook
Or the
itself.
community. and,
Sure.
yeah, okay, so,
And
all right, so.
Yeah.
it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what's number 3?
Okay, you're done with number 2?
Yes.
Okay. Guys are trying to get out of here. I don't blame you.
No, well, some of the questions are dubious, and we don't have an answer for them. I mean, we don't really know, and it's, you could chew
I
on that
should have checked
bone
to
all
see if I
night.
was tall
Yeah.
enough to actually put this over the top.
Uh-huh.
Where do we need or want to grow?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, here.
what was the question?
Where do we need or want to grow?
Congregation.
Well,
Congregation would be number one for, we're slowly getting people to come in.
It'd be nice to see more teenagers or smaller children come in with their families.
Youth,
Seems like we used to have a lot in the past and it kind of went away.
well, I still think we need to understand issues addressing our surrounding neighborhood. Because that's a low one,
So you're saying surrounding neighborhood?
yeah. Where is it, which neighborhood are they talking about? Are we talking about, which, what does that encompass, I think?
That should be another question asked and
Huh?
divided up into this neighborhood and that neighborhood.
Yeah, so where are we speaking of specifically? Is it here or is it everywhere? Part of the Fallbrook or part of both properties or?
You mean to have the surrounding neighborhood become members of the surrounding community, neighborhood become members of the congregation?
I think everybody knows who St. John's is.
Yeah, well, I don't care, though.
Answer my
Why don't
question.
you get people
Yes.
to come here? That's
Does
a-
that mean that
No, I don't think so.
members of the surrounding community become members of St. John's? Is that the intent there?
No, I don't think so.
It may be.
Well,
We
I
could-
mean,
it could very well be. I mean, that's fine, I just want to make sure, I just kind of didn't really understand when it says, my surrounding neighborhood.
Stagecoach or Iowa?
So we want to grow the congregation with youth and members of the surrounding neighborhood, is that correct?
those are the two things I've heard.
Okay, sounds good. I just want to make sure I understood it, that's fine.
Well, I don't understand it, but I heard it.
Yeah, well,
Well, we say that all are welcome, and I'm sure you remember that on Ash Wednesday, that lady came from the trailer park over.
Right.
And things like that, and
We're here.
we're here, it's,
Yeah.
How does that, but how do we
We could have
grow that?
We're small
We
but
could
mighty,
have-
you know?
cute community event for the local neighborhood and,
We
you know,
could.
invite
Could have
the
a
neighbors
fiesta,
over.
yeah.
Well, how do we, when we say grow, how do we need to grow? Grow in, you know, I mean,
What's
grow in outreach, grow in numbers, grow in, you know,
Communicants, of course. We could have Father Leland carry the cross
doing a pretty good
barefoot
job, I think, in
around the
outreach.
neighborhood.
Don't laugh, we did that on Palm Sunday, didn't we? Not Palm, yeah, was it Palm Sunday when we got the church back? We walked around the, Father Sanders had us go walk around the block, do you
Yeah,
remember
we
that?
did
So
I remember it well, yeah.
we're saying, where do we need to want to grow? So congregation, the youth, the surrounding neighborhood, numbers, outreach, how do we do that?
That's not what this question is asking.
Yeah, so, but,
But what I'm saying is, you're asking for the how, it's just asking for the where
yeah.
right now.
Or
There
what?
may be other questions.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, of course, the devil's advocate sitting next to me right here would say, where is on the new church or the big church property over there? When are we gonna develop that? That's what Gail's thinking. That's part of the where.
Sure, okay.
Um,
and that's a how.
well,
How now, Bronco?
Well, that comes under resources as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. That says 5 acres on Stagecoach